This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. On Stockbox today, we're joined by the Executive Director of Kavango Resources, Ben Turney. Hi Ben, how are you?
Very good, thanks Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, very good. So it's great to be talking to you again, Ben. We spoke not so long ago about some results you had on the AEM surveys on your KCB project. And this morning I noticed that you have announced that you've acquired 8 more prospecting licenses in the same area. So why have you expanded in this area?
Well, it's very simple, really. The Kalahari copper belt is one of the world's most exciting provinces for copper exploration. As I said to you in our last interview, pretty much a month doesn't go by without there being new major copper silver discoveries. And ever since the belt really started to open up over the last few years, it's quite widely recognised that its potential has largely still been untouched despite all the progress that there's been. Now, we've obviously got our team in Botswana. We've got a great group of people working for us. And the methods, as I described to you when we talked about the AEM surveys last time, are very much tried and tested. So it's possible for ambitious exploration companies to pursue sort of really quite aggressive exploration programs in this area because they're not having to learn as they go along. The methods are widely recognised. Now, the big advantage for Kavango is because our team is in country, where a lot of other exploration companies, they haven't actually got the resource actually on the ground. They have to rely on contractors or bringing in their own people from abroad. For us, obviously, the COVID situation has opened up an opportunity for us where we've been able to leverage our strong in-country presence and take over licenses as a very attractive partner for companies to work with because obviously we've already got the boots on the ground. So we've obviously been exploring our existing licenses, and the joint venture with Power Metals has been going extremely well. The support of those guys has really enabled us to hit the ground running this year. And obviously, in parallel to exploring our own targets, we obviously saw the opportunities to take on more land, more ground. So we went for it. It's been quite a lot of work. We've had to play our cards close to our chest. And, obviously this wasn't something that the market was expecting at all. But for the Kavango Resources IPO, which we're planning on later this summer, our goal is to create an extremely ambitious, large-scale copper exploration play in Botswana.
Okay. So this is part of your 50-50 joint venture with Power, and it's being spun out into a company called Kavango, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So just looking in the area, you're surrounded by Sandfire Resources, formerly MOD and Metal Tiger. A lot of people know the story there about the big find at the T3 deposit. You have licenses sort of in the middle of where they have licenses. These new licenses you picked up then, whereabouts are they in relation to your existing licenses and, of course, Sandfire?
So we've taken a very strategic view on the ground that we've taken on. So the land parcels, broadly speaking, break down into 2. We've got direct extensions from our South Guernsey project, which is obviously the current joint venture with Power Metals. So there was obvious reason to take that ground on because we then got sort of one contiguous land package. But the second group of licenses are further over to the west on the Namibian border. Now, the Kalahari copper belt actually runs from northeast Botswana into Namibia itself. And some of the ground in particular that we've picked up by the border, we're very, very excited about in terms of what we've seen from the regional geological surveys that have been done. And we're really, really looking forward to getting out into the field and starting some exploration on the ground.
Okay, so this is really all about expanding your footprint in what you feel is a very prospective area.
Exactly. So based on our experience of actually having worked on our existing licenses, what we've learned from our desktop sort of regional geological studies, and above all, what we've learned on the ground from our soil sampling programs, the ground mag surveys that we've run, the airborne surveys that we've run. Obviously, I can't prejudge the airborne survey results. We're still waiting for the final results to come out in April. But so far, everything that we've learned has confirmed our overall exploration hypothesis. And confirmed our view of where we think the target should be based on the existing knowledge that was already out there. So it's all very, very encouraging, and is coming together very neatly.
Okay, that's good to hear. Now, you mentioned as well about IPOing Kanye later on this year. So can you perhaps tell us why you plan on doing that? What's the advantage?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, obviously, as Kavango itself, we're still a relatively small company. Our primary focus is on the Kalahari suture zone. We all know that's a monster of a project with absolutely enormous potential. Where we found ourselves in the Kalahari copper belt was with a second project, which arguably was of the same size. Although it doesn't quite necessarily offer the same upside, in terms of the size of deposits that we might find in the KCB, that's balanced by the fact that the exploration methods there are so well established and well known. So the chances of discovery are much higher. So we took the strategic view last year that a spin out of our KCB interests would be a better way forward for Kavango, because what it would do is two things for us as a business. First of all, it would shore up our balance sheet. So obviously our investment in the Kalahari copper belt, and by proxy, our investment then in Kanye, would become an asset that would sit on our balance sheet, which would enable us really to focus our energies on the Kalahari suture zone. But secondly, it would also meant that our operational team, we could keep our really tight focus on developing the KSZ, while at the same time building an operational capacity around Kanye. So that becomes a company in its own right with its own team on the ground. So we obviously set the strategic joint venture up with Power back in September, and thanks to their help and the additional funds they brought in and the additional expertise, we've really been able to accelerate our plans. So had we tried to do this on our own, I think things would have gone much slower. Mm-hmm. But because we've worked with the right partner, we're just able to move much, much quicker now as a business. And this was the original reason that the guys brought me in. They wanted to inject some energy into the company, really get things moving on the corporate side, and in turn, obviously, for that to flow through to the operations. And I've got to say, we're 3 months into the year now, and it really does feel like we've hit our pace.
Okay, super. Now, of course, this is all subject to due diligence and Botswana government approval. What's the plan? How do you think it'll go, the process of actually getting it all tied up?
Yeah, we're confident about it. I mean, it's a tried and tested method. Mm-hmm. We don't foresee there being any problems. The agreements that we have in place are all binding, in the sense that our counterparty is now locked in. It's obviously up to us to complete some further due diligence work, which obviously we need to do, and then obviously get the approval from the Ministry of Mines. But mm-hmm. given Kavango's involvement in Botswana, the amount that we've already invested into the country, sort of our track record, both in the KCB and obviously in the KSZ, we'd expect we should get full support for our applications, and not least Kanye itself could be another fantastic company that's helping further the mining industry in Botswana.
Indeed, yes, and Botswana, of course, as many people know, is a great jurisdiction for this kind of activity. So I can't see you having many problems there with the Botswanan government. It's a good place to work, isn't it?
It really is. To be honest, it's probably one of the best places in Africa to operate as a mining exploration company. There's obviously a lot of land, a lot of highly prospective land. It's a relatively small population that's concentrated in the southeast of the country. It's a very stable jurisdiction, so they have an excellent legal framework. It's a country that has, built a lot of its wealth on mining. Mining accounts for a huge proportion of GDP. So the country is very incentivized to make the mining industry work, and it's why it's such an attractive destination for external foreign investment. So, we're delighted to be working there. We've got, great relationships in country. Obviously, we're, increasingly becoming quite a significant employer there. And when we get to the point where we've made some major mineral discoveries, then hopefully we'll be able to contribute to the wealth of the nation as well.
So what are your plans now going forward to develop this?
Well, we're pretty much going to do exactly what we've done with the Power JV and our LVR JV. We've written a number of announcements this year where we've talked about accelerating our plans. So as soon as we get approval and the licenses are transferred, we'll immediately move into soil sampling and ground mag surveys to confirm our understanding of the regional geology. Assuming that we get favourable hits from those, for example, if we are able to identify zinc anomalies, let's say, which is a typically is a good pathfinder element for copper discoveries. Then obviously we'll look to move into the airborne phase. As we're now waiting for our airborne results from the Power JV and the LVR JV, assuming that those results confirm the initial results, which were very, very encouraging, then we'll be looking to move to accelerated drill programs. The targets that we're looking at, we expect will be relatively shallow. So we're working at the moment on our environmental management plans. So we're getting all those applications in so that we are drill ready as a company, and those EMPs will cover the new license areas as well. So our priority with all of this ground is to get the drill bit turning as soon as we can to try and identify mineralization.
And what about funding for this then, Ben? Is that all in hand?
Well, of course, it's the most important thing for any exploration company, how will they bring together enough funds to pay for their plans. This is one of the big advantages of us spinning these licenses and this project out into a venture in its own right. We'll obviously be looking to do the IPO later this summer. The copper market is absolutely on fire. The IPO market is doing extremely well. So these are extremely favourable conditions to raise money for a venture like this. The great thing for Kavango shareholders, of course, is that by raising money directly for Kanye, we won't be diluting Kavango to pay for this development. Now, the actual licence terms that we have negotiated and the spending commitments, our total spend commitments across all licence areas over the full 3 years is only $2 million. So that's what we have to do to be able to keep the licenses. We're obviously expecting to deliver much more ambitious work programs than that, but we really find ourselves in a perfect spot with this ground that we've taken on. The financial commitments are not heavy at all. We'll certainly be able to cover those. And of course, we've got a fantastic opportunity to raise money for this dedicated vehicle when it comes to IPO later this summer. And it really is a very, very exciting opportunity for us and our shareholders.
Okay, well, Ben Turney there, the Executive Director of Kavango Resources. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.